Good morning, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? Happy Saturday. Very good MMcgwire show. I'll show you. Alligator had a decent one. Gold did its thing. So, it was August 1st. Oh, so it's not month end. Oh, so look what happens. So at 8 o'clock, instead of going down $20, it goes up $50, $60. So it goes from $32.95 up to $33.63. What a joke. What a game. Silver goes back up over 37. So the question is, what's with these stupid moves? This is the problem with comex. This is the problem when you price fix and you're doing options instead of real market. You have no idea. And MMcgwire talks about this. Obviously, he's been watching us. And what's the point? You're trying to get a real price, which you don't know. We don't know the real price of gold and silver. This ain't it. We know this is way low. That's why we run out and buy all the gold and silver we can. And if I get my job on Monday, then I will go out and buy more because it's very, very well undervalued. And a lot of that Mark gets into is they're trying to keep the US dollar. Again, JP Morgan does not understand competition. All he wants to do is get monopolies because he can't compete, right? So that's what comex is about, is to keep the gold and silver low so you're into dollars, because he doesn't want gold and silver competing with the dollar. That's how ridiculous JP Morgan is. What a loser that guy is. So that's why they try to counter the gold and silver on these options and derivatives is a control issue. It's not a price issue. So it's going to be breaking very soon because this is not a U.S. thing. See, if it's a small market, you can do it, right? In a real market, there's pricing, right? So if I put this on the shelf and people want it, that's the real price. So if I put this on the shelf at Kroger's and it's $100 and people are buying it, then I know it's worth $100 and I can value it at 100. If it goes off the shelf in 5 seconds, I know I can charge more because there's much more demand than $100. And if nobody buys it, it stays on the shelf, I'd go down to $90 until I get it. I go to the price where it starts selling. And what I do is I look at what's Jack Daniel's selling for and what's Dewar selling for and Crown Royal selling for. And that gives me an idea what the market will pay for whiskey. But what JP Morgan's done with the Federal Reserve, there's no competition for the dollar. And then he steals everybody blindly. He's been in the Madoff Ponzi scheme and everything else. It's probably the most corrupt bank there is. They probably run the government. So they're bad news. So what we have is comex. They're going, we'll keep the price of the dollar down and of the gold down. And then people will want the dollar and they'll put it into the stock market, which we control, and put it into annuities and real estate trusts. And then we'll bankrupt everybody because we'll fuck it all up. Because we really don't know what we're doing. And we'll do the housing crisis because we'll give mortgages to anybody who wants one, even if they're qualified or not. Who would loan money to somebody who has, you're not working and you have a nickel to your name? Yeah, of course I'll give you $5,000 because I'm sure you'll pay me back. What kind of crap is that? And then the bank, oh, well, we'll take these loans and we'll sell them. And we'll say, you can have this real estate trust. And you're going to get 10% because these are strong loans. Kind of crap. If you would understand what's going on, you would have saw Clinton do the bill that forced the banks to loan to people who should never be loaned. This is the American dream for everybody to have a house. Didn't you know that? Working or not, credit or not. Oh, well, sure, we'll lend money to anybody. What kind of crap is that? Oh, that's socialism. That's Keynesianism. I see that here, and I think it's happening in most states with all the road construction. That's government spending. That's socialism. That's Keynesianism. They did it in the 30s. They did highways. They built dams. They did all this government spending to try to stimulate the economy. Oh, yeah, we're in the Depression for 15 years because of this idiot. He shouldn't have done anything. He should have just let the market come back. The stock market by 1930 was back at, it was 259. It went down to 29. It was back at like 230. So you didn't have to do anything. It's just panic. And again, it's people that don't know what they're doing. This is the problem with everything that we do. We don't understand football. We don't understand gambling. We don't understand a lot of things. We don't understand the stock market. We don't understand bonds. We don't understand bricks. So we do things that we don't understand because we trust our financial advisor. I'm at the club yesterday. We were talking about the Lions game. I wanted to rub it in any chance I get. And then we start talking about gold or something. And my friend, well, I don't even know his name. And he says to me, well, I go to my advisor and I'm in stocks and mutual funds. And have you asked him about gold? No, I just, whatever he says. Well, he's not going to tell you to go into gold because he doesn't make commission on it. But you should be in gold because your stocks are going to crash. Because there's $40 trillion outside of the U.S. who don't want to be in the U.S. dollar anymore, who are starting to realize 37 trillion in debt. You can't balance your budget. And if you keep printing dollars, they go to zero. And that's the part people don't understand. If you keep printing dollars, they go to zero. Nobody can understand that. I know I talk about it a lot, but it's very important. And I know I get new people. So it's a very important thing that you must understand. You can't just keep printing it. You can't just have chocolate ice cream every day and not get fat and not get sick. It's going to happen. And really, that's the key to it. So that's really the issue. People don't understand. And we're going to watch MMcgwire today, and you will understand. He has a guest, London Paul, who I do like. I don't hear him a lot, and you don't see his picture. He hides it, but he's on. So we'll get to that. So anyway, more importantly, why did gold go up $65 yesterday and go down, $65 the last few days? Because they're marketing it to market. I'm not sure what that means, but they want to get a lower price at month end to tie it to things, and then after month end, everybody buys. So everybody knows, the Chinese, the Russians know that the U.S., since the U.S. is controlling the gold price with the bullshit COMEX options, that they know that they're going to drop it at month end. So they wait. That's why you see it go down a few days. And then here comes August 1st, and they're all buying. So we're right back to 33.63. Hopefully we see 3,400 now. This week, I know there's resistance at 34, which is all bullshit options. It's got nothing to do with people selling. Nobody sells gold and nobody profit takes gold. You might sell your Apple stock or your Intel or, Dell or whatever. Whatever floats your boat, I get it. But not gold and not silver, and not at these ridiculously low prices. This is the buying Sale of the century, the old show used to be. You can get silver for $37. That's worth probably close to $1,000. Oh, Howard, come on, yeah. Well, why did it get taken down from 39 to 37? Nobody's selling gold. Everybody's buying gold. They need it for their solar panels, their cars, and because it is money. Silver is the unique thing that is used for multiple purposes, for missiles, for solar panels, and it is money. I don't care what Alligator says. Well, they don't price it in money. It's price fix. How can you even say that? You're telling me you don't even know what the price fixing is. They're keeping the price of silver down. And you think, well, it's not monetary. It is monetary. It is in the Constitution. Gold and silver are real money. So what the fuck you talking about? It's absolutely real money. The fact it's not priced by that is because of this. Look how it's priced. Once you get it out of comex, it goes higher. It's very limited, and most importantly, can't be printed. You cannot print a billion, trillions, and trillions of these. You can't do that to silver and gold. So nobody really understands why gold and silver have been around so long and have never lost their value. It's quite simple. You can't print them. There's X amount. There's always a huge demand. That's why mummies put gold in the pyramids, in their coffins, and people have them in bank vaults and Fort Knox. You need Fort Knox for gold. The money's not in Fort Knox. This shit isn't in Fort Knox. This shit's, I don't know, Federal Reserve or something. It's not. There's always a huge demand for gold, and it lasts forever. It's indestructible. It's the perfect thing. It's very desirable. It's gold. Everybody likes the look of it. And that's the whole point of it. But because it's highly demanded, money is what's mostly demanded. Now, we can't make gold money per se because it's not that much of it, but we can back the dollar by it. And here's this dollar backed by gold, which is what they used to do in the 1800s in the US. And there was enough gold. I hate when people say, well, there's not enough gold. We can't do a gold standard. You're a fucking idiot. Of course you can. First of all, you got to raise the price of gold much higher. You can't make it at 3,000. You got to make it about 50,000. Then you print dollars with backing by gold, and you cut it into little, this is 1/50th and 10/50th and 25/50th. And that's what you do. So you walk around with gold-backed currency. Right now, we're walking around with worthless currency. And it might be in your debit and credit card, but this is what you're using. You're using this to pay it off. So it's all a bunch of bullshit. So comex is on its way out, and come on, how can it's been here for 50 years. It's been a mess for 50 years. It's fucked the price of gold and silver, and it fucks the price of everything. And you keep printing and printing and printing is the problem. So, but comex was a U.S. based thing. It was only in the U.S. and London, and they were controlling it. The more I read, the more I watch, the more I realize London is controlling the U.S. They never stopped. London was the financial center, and they had Hong Kong and India and the East India Trading Company, and they never stopped. So they control what the U.S. does. That's why in the FX market, you see, $1 equals 75 British pounds. Well, how can that be? So British is the most powerful dollar, even though their dollar collapsed and is worthless. So that's why the FX is all bullshit. And comex, so the U.S. and London trade options, one shorts, one puts, and one calls, one puts. That's short and long. But it's the game they play until the gold is actually asked for delivery. And then with no inventory, they can't play the game, and that's where they're at. So comex is blowing up because of China and Russia and BRICS wanting gold. and they go to Comex because it's cheap, and they say, I want delivery, and I want 10 tons of the gold at 33.63, which is impossible because you can't buy it at 33.63. Oh, we can, even if we go to the store, it costs 34.63. If I go to my store and we're to buy an ounce right now, he's $100 over spot. But even with that said, that's the point of it. It's not a real price. And so all these people want it because you have no choice. You want to get out of this, and you want to. So I'm Russia or I'm China, and I want to get out of these. I want to get off the dollar or off the euro or whatever. The euro's bankrupt also, so don't kid yourself. This is bankrupt. This is bankrupt. So I want to get out. If I hold any, I want to get out. And fortunately, we can still use it to buy gold and silver. Amazingly enough, the people at the gold and silver stores will take dollars. So it shows you how really misled these dealers at the coin stores are. They don't have a clue what they have or what they're doing. So I go to my friend, I say, are you keeping some gold and silver for yourself? Because you know it's going higher. And at first I don't think he understood. Now he does, and I'm sure he must keep, if he gets in 10 ounces, probably keeps 2 of them. And he sells enough to keep the lights on, pay the rent, and pay the employees. But they really don't understand. They're just there to sell. Here's the price. Here's the spot price. Here's what we're selling for. And for some reason, you can get Cougarans cheaper than Eagles, and you can get Maple Leafs cheaper than Eagles, which makes no sense because an ounce of gold is an ounce of gold. So why is Comex blowing up? Because they want delivery. They want physical now. We don't want to be on the Titanic anymore. We want to be on the lifeboats. So we need to get out of this, which is the sinking Titanic, and we need to get into physical gold and silver. And that's the key to it. So Comex is kind of keeping the price of the gold and silver down. Who does it benefit? The U.S., probably London. Who does it not benefit? Anybody who owns gold, because we're all waiting for that price to hit 5,000, 10,000. It'll go to 5 and it'll go to 10 and it'll probably go much higher. If the U.S. revalues gold to help pay off the debt, they'll probably revalue it 30, 40,000, whatever gets most of their trillions that they need. Problem is the U.S. has no gold. Again, Luke, if they did, they'd show their hand. Well, maybe they wouldn't show their hand, but certainly they would use it to pay off the debt. But my guess is they're in a quandary, because if they do raise the price of gold to $30,000 pay off the debt, you've just made Russia and China and India and Saudi Arabia and Brazil very, very happy, because they have a lot of gold and now they're rich. So by keeping the price down, you're keeping them. They are rich, but you're keeping them from getting real rich. And I think that's the underlying reason they control it now. The problem is they've let the cat out of the bag. They've kept the price down. So now all these countries are buying it cheap, but they're not reacting to that. So the U.S. should let the price run, because then it'd be more expensive for BRICS to buy their gold. But they're too stupid to do that. So they want to keep it down. Now they want to keep it down so the value of their gold isn't as high. Well, that's not going to work, because China and Russia, and there's going to be a St. Pete exchange and I thought there was a Moscow exchange, Hong Kong, Singapore exchanges. What is it? The Shanghai. And then there's one in Dubai. Well, they're going to price gold and silver with physical. You need physical to buy and sell it, right? If it's not physical, you can't sell it there. So you're going to get a physical price. Nobody's selling their gold at 3,300 if you don't have to. And these countries have the big bars, so they're not. It's not like I can go sell a quarter ounce, right? they got the big bars, and the big bars will be, um, they're like 100-ounce bars or something, 400-ounce bars, I believe. So they're not selling that at these prices. If they ever sell, they probably won't sell it. They'll probably sell one bar and chunk it down, or they'll melt it down into ounces. It's 32,000 ounces a ton. Those are 400-ounce bars. So maybe they melt one bar and get 400 ounces and sell the ounces. But they're looking, there's nobody profit taking. There's no selling of the gold unless it's a guy like us who takes 1 ounce because we got to pay for some bills. We want to go on a vacation, or we want to go meet Egon in Switzerland or something. That's it. That's all that it is. It's just that. So that's what you have to understand. COMEX used to just be US and London, and nobody was interested in gold. But since the US has destroyed the currency, as most of the countries, then they can't control the gold and silver anymore because everybody wants physical. That ends the COMEX. So really now it's Russia and China controlling it. I heard it's going to be priced in yuan, which is China dollars. That'll be interesting. So what's it worth in US dollars? Right now we go, oh, it's 3,000 US dollars, but in China dollars, it's going to be worth a whole lot more. Again, I can look at it in China dollars, but I got to convert it to US. So if we look at it in China dollars, so it's 24,000 Chinese dollars, but you have to convert it to US. So if it got, again, China is 7-1. So $1 buys you 7 yuan. Hence, so you're still looking at $3,300. But if the dollar in China were to go even, then it'd be looking at $24,000 gold. But we don't know how the FX is going to work, because if our dollar is not worth anything, it could be much, much higher. So you'll always convert it. So I'd still go to my guy's store and he'd go, oh, this is how much yuan, so this is how much in dollars, and you'll get paid. So that's really the problem. Is it's a world thing now. All the BRICS are buying gold because they're coming out with the gold-backed currency, so they need gold, and they have a lot of it. Like I said, China's got 70,000 tons, Russia 20. But it's really hard to know because you don't know how much Putin has in his swimming pool or on his gold train or in his houses. You have no idea. When they talk 2,000 or 3,000 tons, that's central bank. But Russia's not stupid. They have shadow banks buying it, their citizens buying it, Putin buying it. They don't report it. China doesn't report it. So they got a lot more than, and we have none, because we won't open Fort Knox to the audit to prove that we have it. So if you can't prove it, you don't have it. You ask me for my Tom Brady card or my Mantle card, and I show you. I prove it. I'm proving that I do have these cards. Here they are. And you can't deny it. But if I say, do you have gold, you better show me the gold. That's the problem. So that's what's going on. It's because it's a worldwide thing, and BRICS is smart enough to go to gold because they know this system doesn't work. This is the bullshit fiat system, not backed by anything, put in by, I don't know who, some Keynesian in the US, I guess, or in London. Again, Keynes was British. That tells you all you need to know about London. And then he came over here with FDR and gave us 15 years of depression. And I love how the CIA thinks having a war gets you out of a depression. The only reason it worked in World War II is we took gold from London. We sold them our weapons with gold, and they gave us gold. They paid for it. That ain't happening now. Nobody's paying for our weapons. We're giving it to the Ukraine. We'll give them money, and they're selling the weapons to the cartels in Mexico, which probably comes back to the U.S. to Lindsey Nelson or whatever that Graham, whatever his name is, Lindsey Graham. So it's really ridiculous. All right. So we're back over 37. We're back 33.60. I would assume 34 this week. Our next hurdle is to get over 35. And then we get into the 4,000s. And that's it. Then we're gold. All right. Preseason football. Be very, very careful betting on the fourth string. Now, after watching the game on San Diego next week, do you want to bet on Trey Lance? Hell no. He stinks. Do you want to bet against the Lions? Yeah, probably I do. I think the Lions are in really bad shape. I think the new coordinators are horrible. You know, everybody says, well, Trey Lance was going against the fourth string of the Lions. Well, the Lions were going against the fourth string of San Diego, and we got 7 points. The fourth string of San Diego, or the third string quarterback, lit us up for 27 points. They ended up with 34. Uglia Buglia comes in. You couldn't even stop Uglia Buglia. I think they just let Uglia Buglia touch the field. I can't imagine that guy playing. I don't know why they're wasting a roster spot for Uglia Buglia. But anyway, so I think you just keep betting the Lions against them in the preseason. My God, if you can't handle the third string quarterback who sucks, who's never been any good at Frisco or Dallas, goes to San Diego, and then with their backups, he lights you up. You got big problems. I think the defensive coordinator is going to suck because I don't think they were they were always a 30 defense. They had a little bit early on when they were playing Jacksonville and Tennessee, all those great offensive teams. But you know, they interviewed Hutchinson on the sidelines, and he says, well, I'm ready to go. But they didn't say, are you ready for week 1? Oh, I can't wait to be out there. Well, you said the same thing. If we would have made the Super Bowl, you would have been out there, which is full of shit. You weren't ready. You're not ready now. If he plays the whole game in September. Now, you know how these guys are babies. I can't imagine him playing the whole game week 1 anyway. I don't think he'll be ready till October, but we will see. He's just playing the bullshit. But be careful who you bet on. You better know if they have good backup quarterbacks. You can bet a good backup quarterback if you know who they are and if you know the coach and that. Otherwise, you're betting on four stringers, which I do not advise to bet preseason football. I don't like the whole gambling involved, FanDuel and BetMGM. I don't like these prop bets. You're asking for problems with the prop bets. I mean, what was it? This pitcher on Cleveland. The fuck? You're making how many millions of dollars and you're going to do prop bets? And how much is the prop bet he made? What was it? 10 grand or like that's a big deal. And why are these guys stupid enough to make the bet themselves? Hey, Uncle Charlie, yeah, why don't you go bet against me? And you do it once in a blue moon. You don't do it regularly. So I don't know what they're doing or why. And I don't know why they're associated with it. And if this guy's guilty, he should go to jail, not just kicked out. Although I don't know if it's illegal, but he should be punished and thrown out of baseball because you have to make a deterrent. So Tani did it and they let him go and they blamed his interpreter, which is bullshit. How many millionaires do you know are going to let their interpreter have their money and bet it and they don't know anything about it? None. That ain't going to happen. So I thought that was bad. And then the other guys say, oh, well, if he can get rid of it, I can certainly do it. It's all bullshit. It's just ridiculous. So you got to be careful betting anyway. Probably more the prop bets because those are far easier to fix. Oh, he'll gain 82 yards and there's a lot of action over and he gets to 81 yards and he doesn't see the ball again. Or vice versa. Everybody bet the under and he's got 81 yards and he's going to carry the ball the next time until he gets over 83. I don't want to bet on that. It's all fixed unless I know who the fix is on. So anyway, be very careful betting preseason. Trey Lance is not good at all. There's a picture of him at the ball like down here. Like everybody, the quarterback's supposed to keep the ball here, and he has it down by his side. I'm sure he can't read. Okay, they probably didn't blitz him. Anyway, Harbaugh, you thought was a quarterback mentor, is not. He didn't get a quarterback at Michigan in years. So he doesn't know how to mentor. Andrew Luck was not his. His father taught him how to quarterback. So be wary of preseason football. Just wait a few more weeks and then we'll get to the pros. And in roughly 3 weeks, we start college football. Let's look at baseball yesterday. Had a great day. Cincinnati wins 3-2. The Cubs 1-0. Trevor Rogers 4-2 with a 1.44 ERA. Must be legit. Cubs only got 1 run off of them. Philly 5, Detroit 4. This is our lock yesterday, 7 units. We have Philly. Ranger Suarez gave up a 3-run homer. It's 3-0 going into the 7th inning, and I'm like, oh, I'm fucked. I go, wait, well, and this Joe Flaherty is pitching out of his mind. He's pitching the game of his life. This is a guy with a 5 ERA, and he's given up 1 hit. Thank God I have the manager of the Tigers is a total idiot. So, of course, what does he do? After 6 innings, he pulls the guy because he's thrown 95 pitches. Because we all know at 100 pitches, his arm falls off. He gets a broken back and he can't walk. Apparently. Oh, no, he can't. He can't go through the lineup the 3rd time, even though he's only given up 1 hit and they can't even hit him. Yeah, let's take him out. And immediately Philly scores, I believe, 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th. Then the Tigers hit a home run in the 8th. But the reliever the Tigers use, he can't pitch the 7th and the 8th. He's like their best reliever. So he came in to get the last out of the 7th, but the score got tied 3-3. No, you'd think he'd come out in the 8th because he pitched to 1 batter. No, can't do it because there's a lefty coming up. So he goes to his lefty, and of course, Philly pinch hits their lefties for righties. Never thought of that, did he? And then boom, boom, boom. It goes 5-4 Philly in the 8th inning, and then they bring in the new guy from Minnesota, Johan, whatever, and 1, 2, 3. 4 pitches, I believe, and that was it. And Philly wins 5-4, thanks to the Tiger manager. Another one that needs to be fired. Another one that's clueless. There's a lot of problems with the managers now. They're so worried about pitch count. The guy's got a 1-hitter going against the best hitting team in the league. What the fuck are you pulling him for? All right, if he gets in trouble, but he should have came out and pitched the 7th. Should have pitched the 8th. What are you doing? So the manager's incompetence cost the Tigers another game, which I was part of the bet. Ranger Suarez, he really was pitching well. He just gave up a 3-run homer to some guy who's not a home run hitter. It was really strange. Again, maybe he did it on purpose. I don't know. Maybe he bet on Detroit. But you got a 3-0 lead. You pull the guy who's got a one hitter who's normally a 5 ERA pitcher who normally sucks. So you're getting the game of his life. And then what do? You pull him. So then Philly gets the 3 runs. Now it's 3-3 after 7. Because they're so happy that the guy was out because the guy apparently knew how to pitch him. There's a psychology in baseball. When you're facing a Koufax, a Nolan Ryan, a Bob Gibbs, you're just like, I can't hit the guy. I go up there, I'm going to strike out. I mean, it's in your mind. You know you're not going to hit the guy. But if the manager's stupid enough to pull these guys and bring in the reliever, the eyes light up. Oh, I can hit this guy. Psychology's right away. You know you can hit the guy. Where you know you're not facing Koufax. I don't care who they got on the team. I can't hit Koufax, but I can hit anybody else. Koufax had a really fast fastball and a really wicked curveball. That's why in the beginning of his career, he wasn't that good. But at the end, he learned a curveball. And I watched him against Mantle. And he throws the fastball. Mantle can't even hit it. Then he throws this wonderful curveball that just goes boom. Mantle just kind of watches it. And then the third pitch was another fastball, 1, 2, 3, struck out Mantle. I'm sure Mantle was like, but if they would have taken Koufax out, Mantle would have hit a home run off of anybody they put out there. You cannot give up the psychological advantage, which is what you do when you pull the starting pitcher who's got a one hitter. Why are you so worried about 95 pitches? Why is that such the thing? Oh, because analytics say after 100, they're a little more tired. Based on what? Based on whom? It's a stupid thing. We've already broken down analytics. They don't work because they're just a grouping. Well, all the pitchers after 100 are tired. Duh, really? You need analytics to figure that out? But not when you're hot and not when you got a one hitter going. You don't pull the guy. Let him go. So here comes the bottom of the 7th with the new pitcher. Boom, boom, boom. It's 3-3. Nick Castellanos, who used to play in the Tigers, gets a line drive single, and that started everything. But if you still had Joe Flaherty on the mound from SCTV, he wouldn't have got the hit, and that would because he was striking out against the guy. So this is the problem. The manager loses the game. Now it's 3-3. He doesn't know what to do. Comes in with the reliever, comes in with another reliever. But for some reason, he can only play the relievers 1 inning. And some of them not even one, just 1/10 of an inning. And then here comes the 8th inning, and he's got this terrible reliever. He's a lefty, so they pinch hit with all the righties. I mean, it was like, didn't think of that. I'll put lefty against the lefty, and Philly comes out with the righty, and they spank him around and take the lead, 5-4. So Detroit hit a home run in the 8th. Then Philly was down 1, and then you get like first and third, the ball hit back to the pitcher, and he throws it away. The first baseman saved it, but it got pulled off the bag, and then so you can see him choking. And then the next guy comes in and he sucks because Detroit has a terrible bullpen. So why are you going to the bullpen when your guy who's an average pitcher, Joe Flaherty, is pitching out of his mind? The one time all year he's going to pitch great and you pull him. Is he tired? Who cares if he's tired? Let him keep going. He's in the mood. He's in the motion. He's in the groove. He's in the zone. Just let him go. And again, the manager fucks up. I'm going to pull him without understanding psychology that they can't hit him. It's in their minds. Just pitch the guy the rest of the way. He can rest. He's got 5 days to rest. Let him rest for 5 days. What's going to happen? The guy sucks anyway. I don't care. We're not going to have him next year. Keep him pitching only because it's a one hitter against the Phillies. So I don't understand it. But as soon as he pulled him, I says, I won. And I'm down 3-0. And then it was 3-3, 4-3, 5-4 going into the 9th and 1, 2, 3. The reliever from Minnesota comes in. Why didn't Detroit sign the reliever? They're too cheap. So 5-4 Philly wins. Our lock wins. Again, the point was Ranger Suarez, who gave up a 3-run homer. And then the rest of the day, nobody hit him. And then also Flaherty, being a 5 ERA, pitches way over his head. I thought, oh, maybe I should have taken the under. Even the under didn't work. It was 5-4. The only way I could win it was to take Philly. So I did. So that was the big 7-unit lock that we won. I was very excited. I was listening at the lake on the radio a little bit. Milwaukee 16-9. The Packers are playing football against the Redskins 16-9. We got Kansas City 9-3 over Toronto. So I'm seeing Milwaukee's hitting, even Washington's hitting, Kansas City's hitting. Wow, Miami 13, the Yankees 12. Holy crap, what's going on here? No, we didn't play this game, but look at Miami, scored 13 runs. The Yanks had a big lead, I believe. The 49ers and the Mets, 49ers win 4-3 in the 10th. We are under 7.5 with the Mets. We get the win. Cleveland 3, Minnesota 2. We don't have this. Boston 2, Houston 1. In 10, we did have Houston. This was our only loser yesterday. Houston just isn't hitting. It's weird because it's Fenway Park. I would have thought this was our guy, Hunter Brown, going. And he only gave up 1 run, if any, because they scored in the 10th. He was out by then. The Dodgers 5, Tampa nothing. Clayton Kershaw 3.29. Shane Baez with the 4.79. I would have thought it would have been more scoring in the softball park. Holy shit. Colorado 17, Pitt 16. I thought I won with Pitt. Oh my God. I marked it. They were up like 8 runs. I got to see what happened here. And it wasn't overtime. 17-16. It's a football game, right? So Pitt's up 9-0. It goes 9-1, 9-4, 12-4, 12-6, 15-6, 15-10, 16-10, and we're going into the 8th at 16-12, and they give up 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th to Colorado. Are you fucking kidding me? Dennis Santana with a 2-3-1 giving up 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th? What the fuck? Three, 4:36. So Santana comes in the 9th inning with a 5-run lead with a 2.31 ERA. He gets 1 batter out, gives up 4 hits, 5 runs, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, 2 home runs. This is your ace in the bullpen? Does the manager understand what an ace is? He had Harrington come in the 3rd inning after Haney, the starter, gives up 4 runs on 7 hits and 3 innings. This guy he goes 2/3 of an inning, gives up 7 hits and 6 runs with a 15 ERA. Yeah, probably good to have that guy on your team. Then he's got a guy with a 6 ERA, a 5 ERA, and a 2.3. So Pittsburgh gets rid of all their players, and now they have no bullpen. And Santana's probably the best, but he gives up. He can only get 1 out in the 9th, gives up 2 home runs. Wow, I can't believe I lost that game. Anyway, White Sox 6, California 3. San Diego wins 4-1. We have San Diego, and Oakland wins 5-1. We have Oakland. So what should have been a 5-1 day goes to a 4-2 day because Pitt gives up 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning. Oh my God. Yeah, betting's fun, but I hit everything else. So I hit the Philly game, which was 7 units, the Mets, San Diego, and Oakland, and we lose Pitt and Houston. Pitt, was Scanes pitching yesterday? I mean, it's got to be the only reason. Pitt was on a 5-game winning streak. So now instead of being on a 6-game winning streak, that's over. Did Frisco won, so Frisco's not on a 6-game losing streak anymore. Pittsburgh's not on a 5-game win streak anymore. Detroit's not on a 4-game win streak anymore. San Diego goes to a 6-game win streak. And Arizona, I believe, lost. Yeah, so they're now on a 6-game losing streak. So it's Arizona on a 6-game, San Diego on a 6-game win streak, and that's it. So you want to bet on minor league baseball, huh? Because that's what we're betting on. You got a professional pitcher, goes in the 9th inning, gets one guy out, gives up 5 runs. And the manager is what? Just sitting there? What is that? What's the manager doing? Why is he leaving him in there? Why did he leave the other guy in there who gave up 6 or 7 runs? You got a 9-run lead and you can't win the game, 9 runs in the first? Wow. I mean, that's just some pathetic managing. So we're seeing a lot of bad managing all over the league. They leave the pitcher in because he's righty against a righty or lefty against a lefty. That's not why you leave him in. You leave him in because you can get the out. This goes back to my theory that most of these pitchers are not major league pitchers because there can only be maybe 20 to 30 professional pitchers. The rest are minor leaguers. The guy in Pittsburgh gives up 6 runs in the 3rd, minor league pitcher. The guy who comes in and gives up 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th, minor league pitcher. The Tigers, bunch of minor league pitchers. Even Flaherty's minor league pitcher. Okay, Philadelphia's pitcher gave up a 3-run homer to a guy who never hits home runs, the second baseman. So what are you doing? Again, we're dealing with incredibly bad managers and coaches in the football and in college. There's 7 or 8 new first-time coaches who maybe were offensive coordinators. I mean, that's huge risk. So I'll point those out to you. I have marked them first-time coaches. All right, so let's look at today's baseball. I can't wait, right? All right, it's 12:30 at 1:10. We start the Dodgers, Tampa. The Dodgers, 128.5. We got Blake Snell, 1-0 with a 2.0 ERA. He used to be on Tampa. Drew Rasmussen, 8-5 with a 2.96. Blake Snell, I don't think has pitched much. Blake Snell. Yeah, he's pitched like 1 game. He pitched in March and April, 5 innings, gave up 2 runs, and then 4 innings and gave up 5 runs against Detroit and Atlanta. So he beat Detroit 5-4. Yeah, he was on Tampa. Then he went to San Diego, Frisco last year. Now he's with the Dodgers. His overall ERA, which is what we need to look at, is a 3.18. So he's a pretty good pitcher. I know him from Tampa. He was pretty good. Do we get a low-scoring game here? So he's coming off the injured list. Drew Rasmussen is pretty good. Probably an under game. I'm not going to bet it, though. I don't like it because it's in the softball ballpark, the George Steinbrenner ballpark in Tampa. Not on the Tampa regular field. So I'm going to go. The Dodgers are 128.5. I don't want to touch either team. 8.5, probably an under. We won't play it. Baltimore, Chicago, the Cubbies. Cubbies 235-7. Tamaga Shagana 8-5 with a 4.38. Matthew Boyd 11-4 with a 2.47 for the Cubs. I like the Cubbies here. Go Cubs. Beat Navy. We'll go 2 units just based on the pitcher. Matthew Boyd's 11-4. I remember on the Tigers, he sucked. KC and Toronto. Toronto 145-8. Noah Cameron 5-4 with a 2.44 against Max the Anvil Scherzer 1-1 with a 4.89, who sucked against the Tigers. I don't know what to do with this guy because this is not the Max Scherzer with the 2.0 ERA that we're looking at. Toronto can hit. So can KC. I think they'll hit Scherzer. I'm going to go with KC here. Small, 2 units. Pittsburgh, Colorado. What do you do with this game? Pitt's minus 225, over under 10. Okay, we got Paul Scanes, 6-8 with a 183. Austin Comer. All right, we got to take Pitt here. We got to take Scanes. And we're not going to bet it under. And we're hoping Scanes can go more than 5 innings. Again, it's a mate night. Now, if I'm Pittsburgh, he's going all 9 innings. I'm not taking him out. He's a big boy. He's a professional athlete. I think he can pitch 150 pitches just fine. I could. I don't really get why they can't. Pitt, they're not going to hit Scanes. Yeah, we'll go Pitt and Scanes. Detroit at Philly. Interesting game. Detroit 105, Philly 105. Pitt, the game's under 6.5. We got Tarek Skubal 10-3 with the 209. We bet against them last time and won because the manager pulled the hitters. Zach Wheeler 9-4 with the 256. Detroit really didn't hit Ranger Suarez. They got 4 hits on him, and they got a lucky home run. Happened to be a 3-run homer. They're not going to hit Zach Wheeler. Philly, I don't know if they'll hit Skubal. But we have to understand we're dealing with idiot managers who are going to pull these guys. These guys should pitch complete game. What are you doing? Are you trying to win or not? Apparently, the Detroit manager is not playing to win. Philly manager is. So Wheeler against Skubal. Neither guy will go past the 7th inning, if that. Detroit is playing money ball. They want to walk and they want to run the pitch count up. That's Detroit's strategy. We're not very good. We don't have very good hitters or players, so we're going to have to just foul the ball off and try to get walks, and we're going to play like that because we aren't very good. So they're going to try to get Wheeler out probably by the 6th inning. He'll have a high pitch count. Skubal, I would assume Philly will do the same thing. Skubal's okay. Is he that good? I don't think so. I think he's all right. I don't think he's God's gift, as everybody wants to make him out. He did lose the last game. I think the way Philly won yesterday, that Philly has a good chance to win today, especially with Wheeler. I don't see Detroit getting much, maybe a run, until the 7th, and then it comes into the bullpen. If we get to the 9th, Philly wins because they got the guy they just picked up. So can we get Wheeler through 7 and then some reliever in the 8th and then Johan in the 9th? If we can get that, Philly wins. Skubal will go 7, maybe 6, because, we don't want to get him hurt. Even though he's going to move on to a different team, we want him to stay healthy. What the fuck do you care? He's gone. He wants a 10-year, $400 million contract. I'd say, good luck. Who's stupid enough to pay a pitcher 10 years? I tell the agent to fuck off. I'm giving him 4, and I'm going to give him $20 million. And if he doesn't like it, go play in Cuba or somewhere. Go to Japan. Let somebody stupid pay for him. Or he can do like Primetime and he can get paid for all his Twitter account or something. Should be a good game. I am fearful of the under. It should be an under, but I'm fearful that the manager, he's a lefty. I'm going to bring in my lefty who sucks. Or I'm going to bring in my righty who sucks. Detroit has no bullpen. They have one guy, Will Vest, who pitched a 10th of an inning yesterday, but couldn't come out for the 8th because he was tired. Or, they're batting lefties, so I have to have my left-hander. It's the same thing with the batters. You got a guy hitting 280, and he's a lefty. And then a lefty comes on the mound, and you take out your 280 hitter for a guy hitting 120 because he's right-handed. Even though the guy who's hitting 120 has never faced a right-handed pitcher all year, he comes in, and of course he strikes out because he can't hit, which is why you don't bring in a 120 hitter to pinch hit for a 280 hitter. You let your 280 hitter hit. That's why he's hitting 280, but you got to let him hit against lefties and righties, and then let's see what he really is. So the Tigers are a bunch of smoke and mirrors where the lefties only face righties, the righties only face lefties. And so you don't really know what kind of hitters you got. You can't hit lefties or righties. This Ricky Green's going to lead the world in strikeouts or lead the league. All you got to do is throw him a curveball, and he swings and misses. The all-stars on the Tigers shows you how bad baseball is. Anyway, so Detroit, this is a dead even game. I don't know what to do with it. Normally this is an under, but the Tiger bullpen stinks, and they're going to go to the bullpen. God forbid the manager lets them finish the game. If the manager would just let them go 9 innings, I'd bet the under. So it's hard because I really want here. I'm going to go under. I don't like it. And we'll just go 2 units because I don't trust the managers bringing in these idiots out of the bullpen who suck. Milwaukee, Washington. Milwaukee won 16-9 yesterday. Brandon Woodruff, 2-0 with a 201 against Jake Irvin, 8-5 with a. I gotta take Milwaukee here. I like this Woodruff guy. Again, you're at the mercy of the manager who wants to pull the guy because he's pitched 90 pitches. Oh, poor baby's going to be tired. Unbelievable. Yankees at Milwaukee, or Yankees at Miami. Miami won 15-14 yesterday. We're getting a lot of baseball scores. Yankees minus 110-8. Cam Schittler 1-1 with the 4.91 against Yuri Perez, 3-3 with the 307. I don't like this game. Let's go over. Nobody really. Let's have some fun today. New York Yankees over 8. This is when I get in trouble. I start playing these games. The Giants, the 49ers, and the Jets. Namath against Montana. The Mets minus 208.5. K-Wen Tang. Where did they get this guy from the Japanese league? Against Kondel Senga, 7-3 with the 2-0. So we're going to go with the Jets, Jets for 2 units. Texas, Seattle, interesting game. Seattle 137.5. Merrill Kelly 9-6 with the 3.22 against Luis Castillo 8-6 with the 3.19. No fucking chance I'm betting that. They're both in the threes. They could both throw shutouts or they could both give up 6 runs. And then how's the bullpen? Minnesota, Cleveland. Bailey Ober went from Pitt to Minnesota. I'm not sure what Pitt's doing. Pitt just showed you what they have. How did that make him better by getting rid of Bailey Over? 4-6 with the 5.28. At least you could have went to him yesterday. Tanner Bibby 7-9 with the 4.39. This should be an over game with these ERAs. I'm not going to touch it. Houston and Boston, they played a 2-1 game in 10 innings. I don't know what to do here. Boston 125, 9.5. Colton Gordon 4-3 with the 4.74. Walker Buehler. All right, here we're going to go. Well, I can't. I want to go over at Fenway, but a 2-1 game. This should be an over game at Fenway with these 2 crap pitchers. See, these are both minor league pitchers, and why they're playing in the majors, I don't know. Atlanta and Cincy. Cincy won yesterday. Atlanta 115-8. Spencer Strider 5-8 with the 3.71. Chase Burns, who's supposed to be good, but not yet, 0-3 with the 6.26. I don't want anything to do with it. Arizona and Oakland. We're going with Oakland. Arizona's on a 6-game losing streak. Zach Gallen, 7-12 with a 5.60 for Arizona. TJ Gin from Ohio State. 2-2 with the 389. We're going Oakland, mostly because we're betting against Arizona. Oakland will go 3 units because Arizona really sucks. I didn't know how bad they sucked until I saw them against the Tigers. They really suck. White Sox, California. White Sox have been pretty hot. They're 41-69, but they were like 15 and 40 before. California comes and goes. They're 150-9. Aaron Chevalier for the White Sox, 2-6, 4.38. Kyle Hendricks, 6-7, 4.73. No, thank you. And the Cards, San Diego, and San Diego's on a win streak. We're going to go San Diego. Let's see who's pitching. Michael McGreevy, 2-2 with a 4.91 against Randy Vasquez. We'll just take San Diego for 2 units. So our streaks, San Diego, we took 5-game win streak. Arizona, we bet Oakland is on a 6-game losing streak. Let's see if there's any other streaks that have popped up. Boston's on a 3-game win streak. Tampa's on a 4-game losing streak. So Tampa has popped up. And let's see. Cleveland and KC are on 3-game win streaks. Minnesota's on a 3-game losing streak. So we'll see what developed. And nothing else. Oakland's on a 3-game win streak, but that's because they're beating the hell out of Arizona, who's on a 5-game losing streak. The Mets are on a 4-game losing streak. Well, the Mets are all over. They're on a win streak. They're on a losing streak. Now they're on another losing streak. So the Mets 4-game losing streak. And I think we did take them today, so we'll have to adjust. Miami's on a 3-game win streak. Washington on a 3-game losing streak. St. Louis on a 3-game losing streak. San Diego, we know, on a 6-game win streak, and Arizona on a 6-game losing streak. So you can see how quick these streaks develop. All of a sudden, St. Louis is on a 3-game losing streak. That's why I really like to start it at 4. So if we get off of the JETS, Jets, and I believe they're playing the 49ers with Montana. But I can't bet K Wang Tang. This is his first games. Senga 7-3 with 2. So we will go with the Mets. Again, that's why you want to go 4. You want all the if the good pitcher loses, then you want to bet it. Then you're really looking to bet them. So the picks, the Cubbies, 2 units. KC, 2 units. Pitt, Scanes, 2 units. Philly under 7, 2 units. Milwaukee, 2. Yankees over 8, 2. The Mets, 2. They're all 2. Well, except for this one. Oakland is 3. San Diego, 2. Let's make Scanes 3. So you can see the difference. Scanes isn't in the minor league. He's not a player to be added. So you can see right away that. All right. That is baseball. There's no football today. It'll be next week. Will be the start of the preseason. We look at things totally different. So I'm looking at the defenses. I know it's all backup quarterbacks, so I'm really not giving a fuck about them. I already know all the quarterbacks inside and out. As the guy said with the Al Pacino movie, I know them better than they know themselves. No, I don't. I just can read what they're doing. So I think we're looking, really, nobody's trying, so you can't really read a lot. We have to just look at, we know Washington and Penix. We know Atlanta with Penix, Washington with Daniels, Denver with Bo Nix, San Diego with Herbert, Kansas City with Mahomes. I mean, we know that. Burrow. You want to see the players should be out there. I mean, this whole fear of getting injured has got to stop, because you're teaching the players. We watched the video yesterday with our doctor, Dr. Ekberg. And what did he say? He says we adapt. So if we have, what was it, high blood or diabetes? If we have diabetes, we're adapting to it. We're eating a lot of sugar, so your body adjusts to getting a lot of sugar in, although it gives you diabetes. But if you take the sugar away, your body will adapt to not having sugar. You get rid of your diabetes. Diabetes is totally curable, as is cancer. They live on sugar. If you just stop with the sugar, you won't get either. So they're very, very curable. Um, so what are you teaching the pitchers? They're adapting to pitching 90 pitches. The quarterbacks, you're adapting them by not getting hurt. Oh, you can't play in the preseason, you could get hurt. So when they're in the game, what are they thinking? Oh, I could get hurt. Except for Josh Allen, he's an animal. But most of them are worried about getting hurt. Jared Goff, Stafford, you can see them, they just fall down. Joe Burrow doesn't care. So that's what you're looking for is you're adapting them to fear. You're saying, oh, you could get hurt. We don't want you to get hurt. It starts in college. Well, I'm going to sit out the bowl game and get rid of the NFL because get ready for the NFL. I might get hurt. So this idea is going into their minds. So you're adjusting them to worrying about getting hurt when they shouldn't be worried about it. You've agreed to play football. I went out for the team in junior high and I was fine. Then I went out in high school and I saw this big offensive lineman and I wanted nothing to do with it. I said, I'm not breaking my bones. Not for this shit. I mean, I'm not even getting paid, right? So I didn't do it. So I can see me, we'd be in the huddle and everybody would be jumping up and down and I'd be going like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. It's only a game, fellas, and we're not getting paid. So no, I'm not going to get all excited. But that's where you're getting adapted. You're getting adapted in college to sitting out to get ready for the draft. Look at Richardson last year at Indy. He tapped out of it. He quit the game. So I don't feel like playing, and he taps out. And you're still keeping him on your team. A guy who's a quitter, who doesn't want to play. Again, you have these guys that are now afraid to get hurt in baseball. I don't think half of them could go 150 pitches like Nolan Ryan and those guys, Jack Morris, Roger Clemens. I don't honestly think that Louis Tiant and all that. Those were real players in the 80s, in the 60s and 70s. Now what you got now, you got a bunch of babies. You got managers that are soft and don't know the game. You got coaches in football that don't know the game. Oh, it's fourth down. So what? We'll get it. How about field position, coach? You can punt the ball at the 5-yard line. And then if you have a defense and then you get the ball back at midfield, instead of risking a turnover here by trying to go on 4th and 3. No, we'll go for 4th. Because I want to have a tough team. Yeah. Good luck winning. And that's what you have. So everybody's adapting to this bullshit. Oh, I might get hurt. Oh, I'm done. I pitched my 90 pitches. Goodbye. And the manager shakes their hand. Good game. And you're like, you did a shitty job managing. I don't know if I could be a pitcher. And I got a one hitter going yesterday against Philadelphia. And I'm in the groove. I'm in the zone. And he takes me out. I don't think I'd come out of the game. I'd tell him to fuck off. I don't do that. I'm not going to get out of the game. I think I don't agree with you. I'm not going to do it. It's best for the team if I finish the game off. You don't care about winning, so fuck you. And that's the difference. I mean, they're being taught to pitch 90 pitches, and that's it. They're not taught how to win. That's why you see the Tigers choking yesterday. They have a 3-0 lead. The pitcher comes out, and it's 3-3. And then the guy gives up a home run. And then here come the Tiger pitchers, and he chokes, a couple of hits, and then he throws the ball away at first. That's a choke. Couldn't handle the pressure. Philadelphia got crowded, got noisy in the stadium. and it's now 4-4, and he throws the ball away at first, sets up second and third, then they, I don't know if they got a hit or a grounder, but made it 5-4, and Philly wins because the pitcher choked and threw the ball away. It was just a ground ball to the pitcher. All he had to do was throw to first. Couldn't do it. Couldn't handle the pressure. He's not taught to handle the pressure. The manager he takes him out, probably says, "Oh, well, Johnny, nice try. What the fuck's this guy doing in pro sports? You can't handle pressure. You shouldn't be in pro sports." And this is the mistake. And the managers are just clueless. "Oh, I got to kiss Johnny's ass. He tried." Jesus Christ. So this is the problem. And he'll do the same mistake again. He's got Skubal on the mound, and he won't. He should. You don't have a bullpen. This guy should pitch all 9 innings. If he's winning or tied, he should pitch all 9 innings. There was no excuse for pulling the guy after 90, 95, 100 pitches. Why? He's not going to be on the team next year. They're going to trade him, or he's going to have a new contract or whatever. Why would you? What are you resting him for? For the Yankees or the Dodgers? Well, he'll be all fresh and fine for them, but not for us. I mean, it's just incredibly stupid. All right. So avoid these preseason games. You got to be careful with that. All right. We are now going to Mark McGwire. Excellent show. You will definitely love. Let's see. All right. Now, this guy's name is London Paul. I've heard of him before. He's pretty good.
To shrink his prostate back.
The world doesn't even know exists. Objects it might take less. It just depends.
All right, we'll just start with the beginning. We'll go to stablecoin. He talks about silver. We'll do, because we don't get a lot of silver. All right, we'll start here, and we'll go to BRICS expands cross-border, which we know they've got the gold-backed currency. They're just taking their time doing it because there's all these countries wanting to join, so they're going to have to keep adjusting. So they're like, okay, let's bring in the new countries, but they already have the gold-backed currency. It's already out there.
And yes, this is actually, do you know what? This is incredibly timely. Welcome, Paul, London Paul, as you're called. I can't believe, Paul, that there's been over 2 years since we had you on, but timing couldn't be better following the BRICS summit and the underreportedness of it and one thing and another. But welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back. Yeah, I couldn't believe it as well. I look back and went, how time flies. But I think overall, I went back and actually listened to what we discussed 2.5 years ago to remind myself what we talked about. And we started discussing, obviously, multipolarity. And everything that we discussed is panning out and continues to do so. And the developments with regards to that are immense. And of course, ironically, a lot of that has been fueled, sadly, by developments in Ukraine, where, contrary to conventional Western wisdom, the global South embraced Russia, continue to do so, and therefore, consequently, many multipolarity developments have come to pass in that 2.5 years. And the momentum continues, and to coin a phrase, it's an unstoppable train. There's no way it will be derailed. And it always comes back to the point, at some point in the future, the West is going to have to deal and accept it is what it is. And rather than trying to think it can defeat it, which it can't, is to embrace it and to be able to work in with win-win cooperation, because it would be immensely beneficial to the West to work for these countries. I know there's particularly Russia huge ideological differences to overcome, and that's going to take, who knows how long it could take, a decade. It might take less, it just depends. But certainly with the Chinese, there's less baggage, and that would be a great starting point. Particularly, we're seeing it with Europe. There's a summit between the Europeans and the Chinese ongoing, but with regards to the US, they keep thinking they're going to defeat China, and then they realize they can't. So then they sort of lick their wounds, go back to the drawing board, think we'll try some other angle, but every angle's failing. And in the end, it'd be far more beneficial for the United States to find ways to work with them, because the sum of the parts of the United States as a reliable international partner, if they were, and that's a big ask, and China would be immense, not just for the two nations, but for the world at large, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's bang on. And you know what, you were way ahead of the curve here. Over 2 years ago, there wasn't very many people talking about multipolarity, and also really getting BRICS into the frame, which is now much more in the frame. And so I thought, what would be interesting, maybe, Paul, if we can pick up a couple of threads here, is that now what the amazing thing that I find I'm gobsmacked, to be honest, is that how the mainstream media and I mean, very few people have picked up on the fact some good stuff, some major stuff went down at that BRICS Rio summit, and it was really, I mean, if one was going to sort of summarize it, and obviously it's difficult to do that, but it is the tokenization and the financialization of real world assets, and between the BRICS nations, they have literally, if you add in the energy complex, grain complex, all the different commodity complexes that they touch themselves, so trillions of real world assets are potentially going to be digitized and really put into with the gold backing. Basically, the way I look at it, you were looking at a 7-step settlement process outside of the SWIFT. I think it's so major, and I just cannot believe that nobody is focused on it. All they've focused on, Paul, is Trump's threats to tariff the hell out of these guys. When how the hell you can tariff? I mean, this multipolar majority control the bulk of all commodity assets that they either consume or produce amongst themselves. So why the hell should you use a dollar trade when you're actually when you've got these different nations trading amongst each other? It's amazing to me.
Yeah, but I think Trump's response proves just how fearful the United States is with regards to BRICS. And of course, one of their principal fears was this idea, and BRICS is not really concentrating on that at this particular point in time, was a so-called BRICS currency. And to sum up really eloquently why it is not a priority for them at the moment, and I will use the euro as an example. The euro currency was doomed to fail because you're trying to marry disparate economies, say between Germany in the north and Greece, Portugal, etc. in the south. It was destined never to succeed. They don't want to make the same mistake, so they have disparate economies. There's a long way to go to marry those economies together, which is going to require all these other initiatives to be implemented, not least the development of the new development bank and this investment fund that gives loan guarantees that will avoid basically the World Bank, the IMF, etc. You know, you have to start to put the building blocks in place to take advantage of these enormous commodity that the BRICS countries own or have access to. So until you get those building blocks in place, there's no point really worrying too much about what a BRICS currency could be or will be in the future. And that's why, principally, and this has been something we talked about previously, the focus is on trading in local currencies. between the countries. So we know obviously China and Russia trade almost 100% in the ruble and the yuan. That's just a very obvious example, but extrapolate that between the other countries, get those processes working, and that is a major step in terms of de-dollarization. Now, of course, the Americans think, well, they're going to launch this currency in international trade. That's going to cause immense damage to the dollar, so they're terrified of the consequences of that, so they threaten them with 100% tariffs, and then recently Trump went 10% tariffs because the tariff debacle was best highlighted by the nonsensical situation with China, where whatever the United States said they were going to impose on China, China came back and said, right back at you, America. It got up to 145%, and then the Americans turned around and went, hang on, we can't export anything to China. We've just shot ourselves in the foot. Okay, let's walk that back. And then we'll put some sort of pause on this, and then they claim there's some trade deal with the Chinese, which there isn't. There's nothing there. There's nothing of substance. They still got to sit down and reach an agreement, but the United States tried to railroad China and, of course, miserably failed to do so. So with regards to BRICS, therefore, local currencies is the way forward. But also, there's a lot of discussions going on where you will not hear or see any discussion or development. They want to keep things quiet, whilst in the process of developing cross-border trade, being able to look at, as you rightly point out, trading commodities outside the dollar. That's another extremely important discussion point. And basically finding ways to optimally trade with each other and to be able to take advantage of this enormous resource base they have, because it's not just, of course, the Russians who have enormous resources that are untapped. And, therefore, on that basis, it makes sense to just go about their business, keep quiet about it, don't overplay it, don't overblow it, don't antagonize the Americans too much. You might do something harebrained as far as they're concerned. But this development with the new development bank in terms of trying to massively fund investment, infrastructure projects, etc., with these loan guarantees is a huge step forward. And it's those kind of things that will eventually allow BRICS countries, because more and more want to join. There's probably another 20 or 30 that would like to join, but you have to be a bit careful with these kind of institutions that they don't grow too quickly, because then you've got to start catering for the needs of other countries who arguably you might say are not really in a position at this point in time to join. They can be observer countries, but not full members. And unlike the European Union that railroads countries into the European Union or into the Euro who should never have joined, that's not how this process will work with BRICS. And it's also worth noting it's not really an alliance as the West perceives an alliance to be. So this is why you can have countries like India who disagree with something, and that's not a problem. But let's be honest, I'm not suggesting at the moment the yuan's trading more internationally than the dollar. No, but it's increasing significantly, whilst it's very clear de-dollarization is a reality. There are still people, but increasingly less so, trying to pretend that isn't the case, but it is. And there is a lot of now data that supports that viewpoint very eloquently.
Yeah, and SIPs, I don't think most people realize SIPs already interconnects with 4,900 banking institutions. It's growing every day. And my understanding is that those particular SIPs settlement transactions overtook SWIFT in April.
Yeah, it could well be. I mean, it is growing hugely. And really, when you look at China alone, I think in 2024, by the end of 2024, probably about 45% of China's trade with other currencies was then settled in yuan. It doesn't mean the rest are dollars, absolutely not. And that's more than double what it was at the end of 2022. So there is this huge increase in trade. It's rather like the Saudis and the Chinese in terms of trading in oil. I mean, Saudi's interesting because they joined BRICS, but then kind of claimed they weren't in BRICS. They are, but they're keeping a low profile almost. They attend meetings, but don't actually officially admit they're in BRICS. But terms of trading in oil with the Chinese, there's definitely a component that's now traded in yuan. And this is why China has effectively opened up its gold trading market. It wants to open up vaults in the likes of Saudi Arabia. And this goes back to something we put out on YouTube, which was China effectively did announce the gold backing of its currency because it said in international trade that the yuan is fully convertible into gold. This is why they're opening vaults in Hong Kong. They want to do it in Saudi Arabia. Now, why would they do it in Saudi Arabia? Because if China and Saudi Arabia are trading in yuan, then if the Saudis want to, they can either take that yuan and spend it, or they can take the yuan and say, we'd like it converted into gold. And that.
There you have it. They have gone to a gold-backed currency, the yuan, with their 70,000 tons of gold. I don't know why they're not letting their people, citizens, get the money out of the banks. That's really weird. But there you go. We've been waiting for the gold-backed currency. It's out. Now it's in China now. I'm sure Russia will have a gold-backed ruble soon. That's why all the members of BRICS are buying gold, because that's how they're going to trade. Do you really care about sanctions and tariffs? A tariff is if I'm China and I'm selling to the US, they're going to have this extra tax on me. So the way out of it is don't sell to the US. We don't need the US. We can sell to Saudi and Russia and Japan and Indonesia, the whole thing. We don't need to sell to the US because we don't want this crap money anyway. You get paid in US dollars. So you sell the dollars back to them and you buy gold with it. I mean, nobody wants the dollar. So how can you tariff somebody? Nobody gives a fuck. Oh, you're going to give me dollars? Why don't you just give me Oreo cookies? And it's the same crap. So there you have the official. It is going gold back. It already has gone gold back. Saudi sells oil. They can exchange the yuan for gold. And that's why there's the vault, he said, is now there's one in Saudi, one in Hong Kong, Singapore, St. Petersburg, Dubai. So they're going to be all over. And then all you got to do is say, yeah, I want to exchange this yuan for gold. And so that's really where it comes into. That's why the value of gold must be much higher, because of all the oil they're selling. They need gold to be 10,000, 20,000 an ounce, because that way, I want 1 ton of gold for the oil. Now they might have gold for the oil, and that'll be the difference. I hope I didn't just get lost there. All right. So yes, gold-backed currency yuan is out.
Equally possible, and there are no restrictions in place, which is, for me, if it's fully convertible, that's the very definition of gold back. Now, not a lot was said about it. It's been pretty quiet. There was some attention to it in Chinese media. I know people over there who said to me it'd be quite helpful if you put that out and explain what's going on, which we did. And it's reality. And it might not square up with what people like to believe to be true, but it is, and it is by definition a gold-backed yuan on that basis. Now, will countries avail themselves of that opportunity? Yes, they will do in the future. But China was never going to sit there and go, well, we've got a gold-backed yuan and we're going to tell the world. They'll just quietly put a mechanism in place, and global south countries can either take that yuan and spend it however they want to, or they can therefore just say, no, we'd like to exchange it for gold. And those possibilities are now in place, and this is why you will see China open vaults up all over the world to satisfy the need for countries who, rather than saying, well, I'm going to get the gold from Hong Kong and then I'm going to have to ship it back to Saudi, we have the facility in Saudi. There you go. You can just take the gold, or you can leave it vaulted there. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. And they won't have to wait 7 years like the Germans did to get, what was it, about 300 tons of gold. They can get it instantly. Well, within whatever the contractual agreement is, but it's not. the end of the day, one of the big pushes for China in terms of wanting to internationalize the yuan is going to be eventually the capability to price commodities in the yuan. That's clearly going to be a goal. It already is to some extent. They have got odd contracts in place, like with Brazil, where they trade commodities priced in yuan. But they want to internationalize that and grow it significantly in the future. And also by taking strategic positions, it accounts for what they perceived where there'll be shortages in the future. I mean, for me, it's very obvious there are global shortages of physical silver. That's irrefutable, even from very basic international data. So partly that's to do with the Chinese and the Indians. But if you perceive there's a market where no one else is buying, which happened during the pandemic, China took the opportunity to hoover everything up they could get their hands on. And it's also worth noting with regards to the internationalization of the yuan that more and more investors are actually taking money out of places like the United States. This is something Trump's much flawed tariff policy has resulted in. Investors are taking money out of the US, selling dollar-denominated assets and buying Chinese bonds. They've even ironically been going into Europe, buying European bonds, like the German bonds. It's incredible to think they would do that, but that is how little confidence there is in the US dollar, US Treasury complex. And obviously,
no demand, no value. Nobody wants it. I don't know why they're in bonds. It must be companies who need like 90 days, so they do a 90-day bond or something. No demand, no value. This is worthless. And everybody's saying it. We don't want it. We'd rather be in the yuan, which is worthless also. The gold's not worthless, but the yuan's worthless, or the euro is worthless. So why go into the German bond market? Maybe you go into Mercedes. Okay, that would make sense. That's like buy a Mercedes bond. German bond, I don't think so. Again, these idiots want to buy all these missiles and stuff from the defense contractors for this stupid war that they're not even fighting in. They want to spend the money. That makes no sense. But there's no currency people want except for gold and silver. And as gold becomes more and more expensive, the demand for silver will increase because silver is now real money, but it's affordable, where gold's at 6,000-7,000 an ounce. How many people can afford it? And if they just jump it to 10 or 15,000 an ounce, good luck.
I think we noted, and it's not unique in us thinking this, is how much the US Treasury is given way to gold as a global reserve asset. It's absolutely crystal clear that is the case. And that is partly because there is a total lack of confidence in the United States as being, or the US dollar, US Treasury complex being a safe haven. I mean, and part of that came about because we talked about it back then, the Ukraine war and what's happened subsequently, because the US decided to remove Russian banks from SWIFT, including the Russian central bank, and also, of course, freezing hundreds of billions of dollars of Russian assets and reserves in, for example, Europe. The world didn't take too kindly to that, especially the global south. And obviously, the one thing from China's perspective is they're going to gradually open up their financial markets. They are allowing more overseas investors. They're starting to put mechanisms in place in Hong Kong, which is obviously offshore China, but it allows very ease of flexibility to connect to onshore China. So that process is ongoing as well, and that's to do with like Bond Connect programs or being able to invest in China via Hong Kong. And because China knows if it really seriously wants to internationalize the yuan, it's going to have to open up its financial markets, but it wants to be extremely careful. It doesn't want to have predators coming in from the West causing all manner of problems. But So far, they've been successful in doing this, and there's no doubt that a significant amount of money is now moving into China. Ironically, it's worth noting, despite sanctions, people have not widely reported how much the ruble's appreciated against the dollar. That's because quite a lot of money, even though there's supposed to be sanctions in place, is moved out of the dollar into the ruble and is investing in China. So, it's like the age-old problem. It's only sanctions when it suits the Americans. But if there's investment opportunities in Russia, we'll just turn a blind eye. But that's why, because there's been a big move into the ruble, which will surprise people. But that's why you've seen this big shift in the currency. And increasingly, this is the problem the United States is facing, a lack of confidence. They don't trust the Trump administration. They don't trust Trump's tariff policies. 1 minute he says one thing, then he says something completely different. And that's caused huge amounts of money to be pulled out of the United States. It's also why an awful lot of US treasuries are being dumped, and they've been trying to find someone to hoover up those treasuries who are being dumped. I don't think it's any surprise that apparently, in inverted commas, the UK holds more US treasuries now than China. We all know the state of the UK economy and the financial system. So clearly there's something going on there to try and alleviate the enormous amount of treasury dumping that's been going on. And the other thing is, this is also a lot of traditional US allies are doing this. So the Japanese, for example, have been pulling out of the United States and going back and investing in in Japan. Also, this is the case with Middle Eastern countries like the Saudis, who have pulled out the investments out of the United States and being investing in countries like China, for example. And the amount of increase in trade and between those two countries grows significantly. And it's not just in the energy sector. There's enormous Saudi investment quietly going on inside China because it's win-win cooperation. This is why the idea they can't trade in the yuan is ridiculous, because there's plenty of opportunities for the Saudis to spend the yuan wherever it suits them, and a lot of that is in the internal Chinese market.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's see, where are we at? Okay, now we're going to get into silver. I know we've all been, why is silver so cheap and why isn't it moving and this and that, and price fixed by COMEX. So now we get into the silver breakout. So let me get some water and then we'll get into that. Okay, very interesting so far, and it's getting into silver. I like this London Paul guy. I've heard him from before, but he's not on much, and you can see, you can't see the guy. So anyway, I like Mark more when he kind of interacts with the guests instead of just letting them talk, and you don't care about the guest. And I've texted him before, we want to see you. That's why we're coming in. We're not coming in to see your host or your guest. So we want you at least to interact. And now, so he is interacting. All right, here we go. Silver.
Interesting. And I think most people haven't thought about this. And I certainly, in fact, I hadn't really thought about it myself. But, what's interesting, you must have mentioned silver. We got a lot of silver subscribers. And you mentioned silver. And certainly, I think one of the things, shortages, you talked about shortages. And there's so much evidence of that. It's under our noses. And when you think about it, I mean, when was the last time we saw a massive EFP spread of nearly $1 in silver? In other words, the EFP spread would be I'm now asymmetrically imbalanced against my swap position, and I have a short on the comex. And I'm now having to pay a big premium to buy it back. Now, we witnessed that on and it's just these footprints are in our faces. So on the 11th of July, that's when silver kind of broke out. And at that point there, we recorded, and we've got it recorded, a 92-cent comex premium, $4,600 per contract. Ouch! If you are on the wrong side of that, just to be able to buy back that position. And we saw that in COVID. We saw it with gold, where it was nearly $100 premiums to buy back positions against spot. So, and today it's still 40 cents, and we've got silver approaching $40. So, as you say, all of this evidence is under our noses, and yet I think one of the key things that I'm trying to make the point of here is that the LBMA cartel has lost control of silver. And yes, we're going to see games with options expiry coming up on Monday. Of course, we're going to see the usual attempts, but it's lost control because the physical silver market is now the price of silver is being settled in a physical silver marketplace where you have to own a bar novel before you can put it up for sale. And
that's what we've been waiting for, is COMEX to collapse and get rid of these options and the paper gold and silver into a physical, let's get the real price, which we know is 10 times higher. I would be surprised if silver doesn't get to 500 an ounce very, very soon. You can't look at the charts. The variables have changed. BRICS has changed it. Physical has changed it. So you can't look at the old charts to see paper gold and silver and think, oh, well, it's never been over $50 an ounce. Well, fuck that. That is bullshit. That's all been done by paper silver. But in the physical world we live in, it is much, much higher demand. Plus, with the dollar going out, everybody is going to run to money, gold and silver. And as gold gets more expensive, as we talked, silver then is the out. Like, well, gold's 3,400 an ounce now, but silver's still 37. I can buy silver for 39 an ounce. I'll go buy 20 ounces. I mean, that's where they're getting, because I want to dump my bullshit dollars that nobody wants. Nobody wants the treasuries. So it all comes from that. You've printed the dollar to death. Nobody wants the dollar. You get out of the Titanic, you get out of the dollar, and you have to go to the lifeboat, which is gold and silver. That's what you have to get to. Otherwise, you lose all your money. You got 100 grand. You either keep the 100 grand in dollars and watch it go to zero, or you get out of the 100 grand, out of the dollar into the gold and silver and watch it go to 500,000. Pretty simple choice, right? Back to Mark.
Really backwashing. And I think those days are numbered for the cartel.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree in the sense that I always made the point the day you start to achieve price discovery with gold and silver is the day when the paper markets break down. And they break down because the imbalance between the paper and their physical requirements becomes something that is just untenable. And we're increasingly getting that way, and a lot of that is down to the Chinese who created arbitrage, which shifted even more, and it's not just silver, but also gold, east. Also, it's worth noting Russia very quietly slipped in silver into their basket of strategic reserves. So in terms of, they have a basket of currencies because they have huge trade surplus. They now include silver in that. How much silver does Russia have? We don't know. It's probably significant. So this is putting all this extra strain on a lack of physical in the West. And you only have to start to see a sudden demand for physical in the West. And, if there's already a shortfall, I'm just going to pluck some figures. Don't take them literally to anyone who's listening. But let's just say, for argument's sake, for every ounce of physical, there's 100 ounces of paper silver. Well, if that physical starts to diminish globally, because there's only so much global supply, you can't sort of have this idea. Well, we can plug a gap here, and because if you try and plug a gap somewhere else, or there's big demand because huge amounts of silver is moving to China or India, you're going to have a shortfall. So maybe, just to illustrate the point, that 100 ounces of paper to 1 ounce of physical may actually then technically become 200 or 300 or some figure where suddenly someone goes, hang on a minute, we've got some serious problems here. Because if suddenly there was a huge demand for physical settlement, we're going to be in serious trouble. We are then in the force majeure moment. And then that's when the paper markets break irrevocably for me. And I think we've had some instances where I wouldn't say it was going to happen, but they were perilously close to that. And I think what you've just highlighted is one of the examples that demonstrates why that's the case. And yes, for sure, there's going to be gyrations in the market, but I think the paper side of the physical, or the gold and silver markets is becoming less and less pronounced. And also at times, and I've observed this, and I'm sure other people have, where we've seen smashes on gold and silver markets in the West overnight Asian time. And from what I understand, quite a lot of the time, that's the Chinese actually doing it. I think the Chinese have far more control over aspects of the Western gold and silver markets than perhaps people realize, and not just because creating arbitrages and hoovering up as much physical gold and silver as they can get their hands on. I think they've also, to some extent, when it suits them, been moving the market, because to happen overnight Asia time is not something, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that was something that happened previously. This is something that's been more prevalent probably in the last 12 months or so, on and off. It's not all the time, of course, but we have seen instances where that's happened. Then the following day, the price is recovered during sort of US, London market time. So maybe I'm reading something into it that isn't there, but I suspect, not always, but certainly at times, it appears as though it has suited the Chinese, shall we say, to have particularly silver prices lower or as low as possible. Because if you're trying to hoover up as much physical silver in the world, why would you want the price to move too quickly, too soon? But there comes a point where in the end the price has to move, because the physical silver that's available in this example in the world is becoming more and more of a problem. And, you know, I have, obviously everyone knows who's ever listened, obviously gold and silver holdings. That's a statement of fact. And I have quite a sizable silver holding, and I have contacts in China who periodically get in touch and go, we'd like to buy all your silver off you. And they'll give me a premium to the current price. And the answer's always no. And I said, the day will come when I'll gladly sell it to you, but not for now. And I don't have a price in mind, just circumstances will dictate to me when it's better to hold real world assets rather than the paper priced assets that we currently see when they're.
And that's what I say. So I have the silver and I have the gold, but I don't want to get back on the Titanic. So in other words, I don't want to sell it at 3,400. I bought it at, let's say, 1,700. It's 3,400. I don't want to take profit, because then I have to get back on the boat. I have to get back on the Titanic that's sinking. I don't want to do that. That's why I don't sell it, because there's nowhere to go with it but here, and it's going to keep going up. So it's not at a good price yet. Gold will hit 10,000. Will I sell it then? Not if it's to get into this. No. Again, it's to pay a bill or go on a vacation or something. You sell a small part of it to get money to do that. But otherwise, you are not selling your gold and silver. You don't want to get back on the Titanic. It's sinking. I don't want to be on a sinking boat. I'm finding the lifeboat. And that's what he just said. And that's what I've always said, is there's no point to sell it if you got to get back into the dollar. I don't want to be in dollars. That's why I'm selling all the dollars to buy the gold and silver, because otherwise you hold your 100 grand and dollars goes to zero. What would be the point of being something that stupid? So that's why once you buy the gold and silver, there's nowhere to go with it. So you're not going to go back into that. Now, you might buy a Mantle card with it or a Rolex if you're into that. Those will hold their value because they're very limited and very high demand, or these other watches or other baseball players. But that's the idea, is you want to stay out of the dollar. And so your choices are really gold and silver are the best. Silver's so cheap that you buy it. And like he said, the Chinese wanted to buy it from him. He's like, I went into the gold store and the guy said the same thing. Well, we need some gold eagles. Do you have any? And I go, not at $2,000 an ounce. This was when it was there. I said, give me 20,000. I'll do it. At 2,000, I'm not going to get rid of it. And now it's 3,400. So yeah, I made the right move, but it's not even a thought because I don't want to get back into dollars because they're worthless. You cannot print the currency to death and think it has any value. The demand is out. Nobody wants your bonds. Nobody wants your dollars. You can yell and scream about tariffs. It doesn't matter. You're still in tariffs. And he talks about stable coins at the end, and we will listen to that. Okay, so we're coming up to silver price rise driven by physical demand.
Disparity disappears, then I think gold and silver will achieve true price discovery. And silver, of course, relates also as an industrial metal, clearly. And then that will be the time for me to then consider selling some of those gold and silver to buy some real world assets that are priced not based on idiotic Western financialization, but priced on the basis that the asset is worth it should be. So, property is a great example of that, where we have all these ludicrous bubbles where property is way overpriced and in no way, shape or form has any basis of reality attached to it. So, yeah, I think silver is something that people should pay attention to. I think the price is interesting, but the general trajectory, particularly in the last 2 years or so, is, I think 2 years ago, it was about $18 an ounce, something like that. Well, October time, 2023. It's now more than double that. I don't do price predictions. It's not something I'm particularly interested in. But I think the case for silver is self-explanatory, given it's also an industrial metal, and the demand for silver is only going to increase due to all the technological advancements that we now see in the world.
Yeah, and I think, the point that I'm getting from you is it really is, it's about valuing silver based upon a true physical supply, demand, price, and marketplace. And yes, obviously, and I fully concur with you that there's times, why wouldn't you go and attack the COMEX paper positions? Why wouldn't you, knowing very, very well that there are a lot of speculators in there, and you can work out where their stops are just based upon really, what the information is there. So essentially, then you can rinse those out, pick up the discount, and away you go again. But I think what a lot of people forget, and I've talked to a lot of people who have never been in silver before, and I say, do you know what? People forget there is actually money. It's actually a foreign exchange cross against the dollar, the yen, the euro, etc. It's amazing how few people, they think it's just another commodity, isn't it? But it's not. And I think while spot silver isn't yet Basel III compliant, it is a deliverable FX cross against the dollar. So essentially, yes, you would have to, in the past, when we tried to buy in the past, it would be that plus a premium. And then you'd be even restricted as to how much you could have. But I think that is starting to evaporate, because if I now am trading in a physical marketplace and I offer a price who somebody who owns a physical bar is willing to sell that for, then we've got a real price. And I think so. It's kind of that, in a sense, backwashes into the global fix for silver, which is the benchmark fix, where producers and refiners are locking that price in, or forcing hedging strategies upon your producers. in a counterintuitive way. Essentially, I think the physical price is starting to evolve. It's only just starting to evolve as this back washes into this huge, as you say, 100 to 1. I mean, Jeffrey Christian at one point said 500 to 1, and so what? So it's backwashing. And I think this is a really great time, as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I own silver. But I keep saying this is a great time to be looking at silver as an asset class.
Yeah, you make a really important point amongst all the points you've made, but but one thing that when you talk about silver in relation to FX, what I think is very telling, I think what's driven as well the price of silver is as much the reason of what has driven the price of gold in dollar terms. It's a lack of confidence in the dollar. It's a lack of confidence in the dollar US Treasury complex as a safe haven. And there's the belief that, particularly obviously, gold is a reserve asset. I'm not suggesting at this point silver is a reserve asset, but I think the price increase in dollar terms is also being driven by this lack of confidence in the dollar because of the US's behavior, both in weaponizing the dollar, what went on in Ukraine, but also this whole tariff debacle, which has caused the United States immense damage internationally, because it's caused even traditional allies to actually get rather angry with the Americans. Countries like Japan, who've been very subservient, a typical vassal state's already starting to flex its muscles and say we've had enough and we're not going to tolerate this kind of level of bullying anymore. So I think that is a very important point to make, where we're actually selling all this physical silver. As I always said to someone once who said that to me, well, tell me who they're selling the physical silver to, because someone has to be buying it. And of course, the answer is no, they're not, because how could you possibly sell all that physical silver? Because it doesn't exist. No one has that much supply. I mean, there's an argument. Maybe China does, maybe India does cumulatively, but they're in no way are they going to start dumping that kind of silver on the market. So it's obviously not physical silver. And these countries are going, well, we want commodities truly priced, based on supply and demand. We want them to be in non-Western markets. We want them to be not denominated in the dollar anymore. And it comes back to what we said with regards to BRICS and wanting to have commodities priced in non-dollar terms. Well, this is one of many, many examples where a country like Russia will put this into place by the end of the year. And that can easily be internationalized and utilized by, in the future, countries who say, for example, want to trade with Russia, and they say, okay, well, dollars, and Russia says, we'd like you to take rubles, and they go, okay, we'll take rubles. And then what happens eventually when Russia goes, do you know what, we'll make it fully convertible to gold, so you can keep the rubles, and maybe you want to buy things in Russia with those rubles, maybe you don't, but you know what, you can have these fully convertible into gold. That is in place now, but don't be surprised when Russia makes a similar announcement, because all these countries, you see all these new gold markets turning up all over the world with exactly the same statements. And there is an inevitability in the end. They have to pose a serious challenge to the status quo, which is obviously the West. And over time, that is going to put more stresses and strains on those markets. And in the end, they either have to shape up or frankly disappear, because if you keep trying to manipulate these markets, in the end, one day you're going to get caught with your pants down very, very badly. And it's going to end spectacularly badly. So
say goodbye to COMEX, as I said. Okay, now we're going to get into stable coins.
the Czech Republic did it to some extent. So countries all over the world understand that the writing's on the wall for laissez-faire-based currencies, the what I would call US hegemony, the US empire or the Western empire, the dollar-based empire is rapidly coming to an end. We spoke about that previously, and it's interesting, when I first talked about this happening a decade ago, I had people genuinely asking, had I lost my mind? And I said, no, watch what happens. And the same people actually have come back a decade later and going, you're right. I don't know how you knew it, but you were right in it. And they admitted, even a few years ago, they'd seen these changes. But I think for a lot of people in the West, they're very frightened what this means, because they think China wants to be an hegemonic power, which it doesn't. It has no desire to have a world reserve currency. There won't be one in the future, because it's pointless having one. You don't need them. You might want to internationalize your currency, fair enough, but the same could be said in the future for other countries. And maybe one day the ruble will be internationalized, because China has an enormous commodity base, not just in terms of energy, but also in food commodities and other rare earths, etc., and other things like copper, whatever, right across the board. They've hardly exploited any of those resources. So why not? Why is that not feasible to happen in the future? I think it probably will be. I can't see the West ever taking utilizing that on that basis, but well, not for the foreseeable future. But the global South will gladly do so, and it gives confidence in a currency. And this is why, if you trade internationally with the Chinese, and the Chinese said, look, this yuan's fully convertible into gold, that is going to be a huge incentive for countries all around the world to go, well, I'm happy to trade in yuan, because, if I'm not happy holding the yuan, I can, and also that's the other thing, it's to sell it at market price. It's not a fixed price. That's a huge incentive, because then that will even out forex fluctuations. So everybody's very happy on that basis, and China's quite happy to do it. Well, if China does it, Russia could do it. Who knows? In the end, maybe the Saudis will do it. I'm not saying that's the case, but Saudis got very interested in having gold exchanges also. So you can see this pattern developing all over the world. It just largely isn't happening in the West, because, like everything, the West rests on its laurels and wants to believe that, US hegemony is here to stay. And it's almost like now with the US thinking, well, we know the dollar's in trouble. We can't admit it. We're going to pretend the dollar's really strong. But I know, let's launch a stable coin. The reason for doing that is precisely because they know that in the traditional sense, the word, the dollar is no longer perceived to be, or the dollar US Treasury complex perceived to be a safe haven. The world is gradually de-dollarizing, and in some cases rapidly so. So they're going, we're in serious trouble. I know, let's launch a stable coin, because suddenly the world will embrace us once again and believe in us, because we'll create an alternative to SWIFT. Because why do they think people are de-dollarizing? They don't trust SWIFT. They don't trust the US. So why would they trust a new system? Oh, because it's called a stable coin and it sounds stable. So let's suddenly re-embrace the dollar, re-engage with the United States. It's not going to make a scrap of difference. But that's the US basically admitting we're in serious trouble. People are rejecting the old system, and therefore we'll come up with a new idea, and somehow the world will embrace it. Well, the world isn't going to embrace it. The only way the world will embrace the United States going forward is if the US behaves like a responsible custodian, behaves in a way that isn't trying to bully the world into submission, and actually treats people or nations as equals, and actually becomes the country I would like very much the United States to be, which is a great nation amongst equals. If it can ever get to that, it'll be hugely beneficial to the United States, but also hugely beneficial to the world. But at the moment, we're a million miles away from that. This is why the world is rejecting the dollar. So good luck issuing stable coins and all the problems that will ensue in that respect, and all the risks that can pose to worryingly a global financial system, not just the United States. But that's a whole separate discussion for another time.
Absolutely, Paul. And I think you've covered a lot of stuff here. And I think the other thing, one of the things that came to mind when you were speaking is that how little trust there is in the let's just say the LBMA CME ring-fenced marketplace, and I think what's happened is because there's so little trust. Even the World Gold Council came out and did a survey of I think 36 central banks came out and said, yeah, we're buying gold directly from artisanals. We're not going through London anymore. So it's interesting. So if you've got if the price isn't really being settled in the at the AM and the PM fixes in London, or the silver fix at noon, if it's not being settled there, then where is it being settled? And the thing is, what's the real price? And I think people are saying, well, I don't trust any of that stuff. So basically, I'm just doing deals direct. I'll take ownership stakes. I'll just literally make agreements. And I think the LBMA, CME are losing control to be able to actually set a price, an FX price for gold.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another point worth making, and it's something that happened after we last chatted at the back end of 2022 through 23 and 24. Xi kept making visits all over global south countries, and it all related to investments in mining operations. And it wouldn't just be gold. I know silver was a byproduct of things like zinc, copper, etc. But there aren't many pure silver mines in the world. But he was going everywhere, signing deals, and no one really paid attention to it. And they should have been, because that was China also saying, we want to secure access to resources all over the world. We want a stake in them, where maybe it's that China's financing it, then gets the commodity out the ground at a cheaper price, or it might be that they just have a 51% ownership. There's various deals being signed, but they were going everywhere, and she was traveling. I mean, Brazil was one example of this, and they were just securing mining operation after mining operation. And there's no doubt, in part, this was to ensure the West didn't get their hands on them, because China's perspective is, well, the more assets that we own around the world, then we have a better chance of controlling in terms of having true price discovery. And in the future, because we have ownership of enormous commodities or resources, we can then start to price these in the yuan in the future. And there is some evidence of that already happening, albeit in rather limited sense, in the conventional sense of how commodities are priced in dollars. But it's growing rather like SIPs and every other metric we can measure the yuan in terms of its internationalization. So that was something I thought worth mentioning, because it largely went unnoticed, and telling some people who are going, why is he traveling everywhere? What's he doing? What's the point? I mean, why does he want all these photo opportunities? And he wasn't going for the photo opportunities. He was going there to ensure that these deals were got over the line as fast and efficiently as possible. And I think we'll find in the future China owns an awful lot more resources globally than we actually understand to be the case.
Yeah, and when he's traveling, in his back pocket, Sansu.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure he knows it back to front. But Paul, thank you so much for sharing some time with us today. And as you say,
so that was a very good Mark McGuire. I like the guest. Finally, he had a good guest on. Stablecoin, gold, silver, gold-backed currency. Everything we talk about, he kind of touched on. So it's just kind of a reaffirmation. When is COMEX going to blow up? When is the gold-backed currency coming? So it's already here. COMEX as you heard, it's blowing up. There's no faith in the dollar. Everybody's dumping their treasuries. This is worthless. I'm telling you that. Yes, we can still go to the grocery store and still go to the restaurants and use it. Doesn't mean it has a value. This is worthless. Get the hell out of it as quick as you can. Leave 4 or 5 grand to travel or pay some bills with or whatever. It's not going to hurt you. But the majority, you got 100 grand, 500 grand, $1 million. You're in a 401k. Get the fuck out. If you're in a 401k, you're about to get crushed. Get out of it, pay a little tax, and then go buy gold and silver while you still can. I'm not saying there's a lot out there, but it's the place to get out of. We know the ship's sinking. We know we've hit the iceberg, but everybody on the boat's going, well, we're not going to sink. We're the Titanic. We're not sinkable. And that's the whole point of it is you got to know at the moment it hit the iceberg, not when it's 90% underwater going, oh shit, it is going to sink. Yeah, you know it's going to sink. So you get off the boat as soon as possible. So we've been in gold and silver for a couple of years now, knowing the boat's going to sink, just waiting for the boat to sink. And you can see gold's kind of, like he said, silver was like $16 or 20. It's now 30. They're back to 37, 38, 39. And it's about to bust loose. And remember, it's the whole world wanting gold and silver prices to go up. The whole world wants to, Saudi wants to trade in gold. So they'll get the Chinese yuan and then they'll walk the yuan over to the safe and pull out gold with it. And so many yuan will buy you so many ounces of gold. So it's already happening. We're dead on course. We know what's going to happen. We know why it's happening. You can explain it. They print the dollar to nothing. I was explaining to Irina, it was her birthday yesterday, and about what's going. She says they're raising taxes in Romania. And I said, well, that's because the government's spending is so high, they can't pay for it. So they think if they raise your taxes, they'll take that extra tax money to pay the debt. They don't realize you won't. The rich guys will go to Germany or another country or Hungary and won't pay the tax. And the poor people will be stuck paying the tax and the inflation and the cost of goods will go up. And that's what's happening in Romania. So it's becoming much, much more difficult for the average person because their taxes are up and the money's worth less. If they can find jobs, that's really the problem. And I said to her, that's why we got gold and silver, was to be careful of this trap. The only thing that will protect us is gold and silver because that's going to move to the moon. And we don't need the garbage, and we don't need the dollar or the Romanian lei, it's called, or the ruble or the yuan. We don't need that. We have gold, and gold is king. It's a gold standard for a reason, and that's what will protect us from this inflation, from these higher taxes. But it's all because, like here in the U.S., they have to. Their expenses are more because they got to pay for the big government. He's got to cut the government in half. He can't afford to pay all the government employees. Where do you get the money for it? They don't produce revenue. There's no sale. The government, building roads does not bring in revenue. It actually costs more. So in Detroit here, it's ridiculous because all they do is there's all this road construction all over the place. It's government spending. It's Keynesian 101. Well, we want the government to spend to increase the size of the economy. Well, it doesn't work that way. All it does is take the money you have and spend it. You're not getting revenue from it. And there's no revenue now, and there's more expense that you can't afford. So let's print more money to stimulate the economy. It doesn't work that way. It just devalues the dollar. And what most people miss is that the dollar is worthless. So you can have all this government spending and sell the weapons to the Europe who doesn't have the money to buy your weapons. Oh, well, if we sell weapons, that'll help the economy. Well, in theory, it would if you're actually going to spend it, but it's still not going to help. It's not going to be enough. But the biggest problem with most of these countries, the big government, the socialism, you've got to pay your government workers, and the governments don't produce revenue. So I got to tax my people to get more revenue in to pay for the employees, the government employees. And let's not forget the politicians steal 20, 30% of it. And then the average guy gets screwed, and you still don't cover your taxes or your expenses because you don't get as much taxes as you do. If you really want to use taxes, you should cut them to zero. You should like do sales tax instead, but let the people keep their money because they're going to spend it wiser, and you're not going to kill your own people. So this is the problem. So there's too many government employees, which you can't afford because you don't get revenue from it. So like I said, it's like owning an ice cream shop, and you can afford, if you sell a lot of cones, to have 3 employees, and now you have 10 employees. How do you pay the 10 employees when you can only afford 3? Oh, we'll raise the prices. No, that's like raising taxes. People come in, they go, it's too expensive, and they don't buy it. I see that. I went to an ice cream place just to check prices the other day. They wanted like $7 for a sundae. I just laughed. I can get a thing at the grocery store, a half gallon, for $3. Why the fuck would I want to spend $7 for a little 2 scoops, and they're small scoops, at an ice cream place? And they have all these employers they got to pay for. So they think their answer is, we'll raise the price. And if you do raise the price, you kill the customer. The customer says, no, I'll go to the grocery store and buy the gallon thing, versus going to just spending $7 that I don't have to buy your sundae. And that's ridiculous. So they're doing it the wrong thing. Vegas is doing the same thing. Vegas is charging more for parking and more for the hotel and this resort fee. And all it does is drive people away. I don't want to go there. The airlines are doing it. Well, we'll make it cheaper. Oh, but if you want to carry on your clothes, not even in the bag with the thing, just in the gym bag, oh, that'll be $55 each way. Yeah, okay. I don't need to fly then. It's ridiculous. Now, of course, there's certain points you can do, but you cannot keep raising. If you raise the prices, people will not come. Like I say, I can make Teaser King $1,000 a weekend, and I'll get no buyers, I'm sure. At where it is at $75, $100 for both pro and college, I get buyers. But if I were to raise that to $500, I wouldn't get any buyers. I doubt it. Maybe I would, 1 or 2, and that's the problem with what's going on in the world. So they want to raise taxes, they want to raise prices, and you lose customers. People can afford X. As we talked about, adaption in diabetes, and adaption in baseball, where the pitchers now adapted pitching 90 pitches a game every 5th day, and in football, where they adapt. Let's go for 4th downs every time. It doesn't mean it's right. It's wrong. And you've adapted people like to a certain price point. I'll pay $4 for a sundae, but I ain't paying $7, and I ain't paying $18 for a New York strip, and on and on and on we go, where we're used to paying a certain amount. Now we know our dollar's losing value. So it's really not that much more to pay $18 for a steak than $12 for a steak. We know the dollar's not worth anything. So it's still probably a good bargain, but our income hasn't gone up based on the inflation. So why I can't afford my expenses to go up. So that's kind of where it's at. So questions, comments, let me know. www.teaserking.com. You can get my email. Quick look at baseball picks. The Cubbies, 2 units. Kansas City, 2 units. Skanes, Pittsburgh, 3 units. Philly under 7, 2 units. Milwaukee, 2 units. The Yankees over 8, 2 units. The Mets, 2 units. Oakland, 3 units. San Diego, 2 units. A few streaks. Mets are on a 4-game losing streak. San Diego's on I believe, a 5-game or 6-game win streak. Arizona's on a 6-game losing streak. Tampa Bay is now on a 4-game, looks like losing streak. So that is baseball. Football, stay away from preseason. And I say that because you don't know who you're getting, and you don't really want to bet on a 4-stringer who's not very good. I mean, that's why he's 4-string. Why do you want to bet on, not even amateurs, but guys that shouldn't even be there? So just be careful with that. Okay, you want to bet the Raiders? You want to bet the Steelers? Okay. Very light. Just wait for week 1. We've got all those picks. We know we got Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Chase, and we got Justin Jefferson. That's who we want to bet on. You want to bet the stars because you know what they're going to do, and they're going to come through. That's all I can say about that. It's just like betting on gold and not the dollar. I don't know why these people are doing these algorithms on the dollar. It's ridiculous. I'm doing a gold ETF or a gold futures. One girl, I'm in this future contract with all these algorithms and this, and well, I thought you knew economics. That's not economics. That's bullshit. That's algorithms. So I stay away from that. I mean, I don't get it. Just go buy gold and silver. It's simple. It's undervalued. It's going to go up. It's the only thing that can protect you. And you want to dick around with futures contracts and options, which are very, very risky. Anyway, I'll probably come back later with and I know I've been saying this, I apologize, with the MAC and the Sun Belt. I am reading them. If I go to the lake, I do take my book and I do read them from there. But anyway, watch out for these terrible baseball and football managers and coaches. Try to spot the good ones and try to avoid the bad ones, because they will, the Tigers manager is a bad manager. He's too much lefty versus righty. Oh, the guy can't pitch more than an inning. Oh, the guy can't pitch more than 6 innings. And 90 pitches, we got to take him out. He might pull a hernia. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's really, really difficult to see. Anyway, that's about it. So www.teaserking.com. I'm sure we all learned a lot with London Paul. I have heard him before. He's pretty good. He's the only one that makes sense. He is Austrian, I would believe, the way he says it. Watch your cryptos, watch your stable coins. They're not real. They're, like he said, they're obviously showing America's scared because they know nobody wants the dollar. They're all dumping our treasuries. Just use logic. Why are they dumping the treasuries? Because the boat's sinking. They got to get off the boat. Are they buying gold? Well, some are buying bonds, German bonds or China bonds. I don't know why. Those currencies aren't any better. But people don't understand that they're all printed. They're all worthless. Like I was telling Irina, the lei is worthless. Get out of the lei. That's why you must own gold or silver. It's all going to collapse because nobody wants it. It's because it's not worth anything. It's not backed by anything. If it's not backed by anything, it's not worth anything. If it's not worth anything, why do you want to hold something that has no value? I mean, that's the point of my lesson. This is worthless, so get rid of it and go buy gold and silver because it has value. All right. So big interview Monday. Hopefully I get it. Then I can buy more gold and silver. We'll see. I'll do the best I can. It's at 3:00, meeting the boss. I think it's just like meeting me in person versus meeting me here, although I am exactly the same person. But I could see like meeting Daria finally versus chatting with her on WhatsApp. So it's a much better to meet in person. So I understand what she's doing just to get the feel of me. And it didn't say, it just said 3:00. So I'm hoping if I'm coming in that I have a good chance. I don't believe I'm the only one, but we don't know. But I don't think there'll be tests and stuff. I'm sure it's just to meet her and meet the other people. Again, I have a leg up where I have a letter of recommendation from a VP at Ford. This is Ford. This is a Ford job. So if a VP is saying he's a good worker, then she's got the proof that, yes, he is a good worker. Yes, he is what he says he is. And I got a VP who does not do letters of recommendation, giving him one. So I'm sure that's what's helping me, as it should at Ford. So we will see. Anyway, have a good day. Get ready for silver and gold to jump. Again, they want to go to a physical market. It's very close to a physical market, and nobody wants comex and the paper bullshit. They're all onto it. Maybe before people didn't realize what comex was. Oh, that's the real price, supply and demand. It's not. It's a phony price. And anybody that knows runs out and buys the physical at this price. That's why you have a very small window, because once it collapses and we go to a physical price, silver will be 500 and gold will be probably 5,000, 4,500, 5,000. That's what the physical real prices are. So go buy it now at these cheap prices. All right. Again, you got huge demand and you have no demand for $1 that's gone. With that, have a good day. Enjoy your baseball or your football, whatever, and golf, swim, whatever you want. Just relax. All right. Have a good day, everybody. www.teaserking.com. Take care.